We don't agree in the Greens at all with the unitary proposal for Norfolk. We still think there's a strong case for a unitary authority for Norwich, although it should be only the urban area of Norwich. So in the case of Norwich North, for example, that means we think it's pretty clear that Drayton and Taverham are not appropriately included within the boundaries of a Norwich unitary authority. The reason why is because they're villages, and if you talk to people in Drayton and Taverham, they don't believe at all that they're part of Norwich, and I think we should respect that. But there are parts of most of Sproston and Helsden, for example. The line there is entirely arbitrary that is keeping them outside Norwich. You don't even know when you're moving between what's in the city and what isn't, and this is because of the stupid carve-up in the 1970s in the local government review that happened then. Having said all that, I now believe that the likelihood is that the unitary plan is going to fail, which in many ways is extremely unfortunate because a lot of money has been wasted on it if it does fail. And also because it would be good to have a unitary authority for Norwich because we could actually make more decisions about things that affect us. At the moment, when we try to control decisions about our transport, about our schools, basically it all gets decided for us by rural Tories who know nothing about the problems in our urban area, and it's really pretty bad. So it would be very unfortunate if it does completely fail. I'm afraid that's likely to happen, but it won't be the end of the world because it would be better to have the status quo than a unitary Norfolk.
Would you like to go next? And then...
Yeah, I think, generally as an idea, I think a unitary is a good idea, not for Norwich, however. It's quite clear that you can make cuts in, or you can make savings in services if everything's together. Not only that, it's very difficult for people to know how to access services. Who do I go to for a hole in the road or litter clearing or what have you? People are really confused about it. So, as a general idea, I think had Norwich started out as a unitary when it was first formed, when councils were first formed here, yes, it would have been a much better situation. In Norwich, people are very clear that they do want a unitary. As Rupert says, you go outside and people have a huge connection with Norwich, it's our city, but they don't want to be part and parcel of a unitary Norfolk. So I think that it's going to fail anyway. I thought it was going to fail from the beginning, to be honest with you, because I thought the money that's needed to make it a unitary now was just going to be so astronomical it would never get to the end.
Well, you people are the ones who are going to be suffering from any alterations within this system. So who's asked you? You're just going to get one council led by one particular party or another, whoever they may be, force this or not force it upon you. What about your say? We in UKIP are very much about bringing things down to a much more local level instead of big EEDA quangos, and your decisions are made in a remote district, which they don't know this area. So we at UKIP would back our usual UKIP party line here and ask for a referendum on it, because you guys are going to be the ones who have to pay the bills.
Thanks for the question. I'm going to say a couple of things in response to that. One is, I've actually said from the beginning that I think the whole unitary government process has been another white elephant. Tonight is a night of white elephants. We're starting on ID cards, and let's go on to wasting millions of our own taxpayers' money, our money, your money, people's money on the streets. Let's go on to that as a white elephant. I've said that from the very beginning. I mentioned at the beginning, I've actually been here in place as the candidate for 18 months. At the beginning of that, in January last year, I said this was the biggest waste of money I'd ever seen, and I'm proud to keep on saying that. I'll just go on one more point as well, which is that actually I agree with Glenn. In fact, we do need people's views on this. I think a referendum, in fact, across Norfolk, were these proposals to go any further, were any more of our money to be wasted in sending them any further, a referendum would be a sensible step. But what I'll finish by saying is that one particular reason why I don't support, in this case, a Greater Norwich authority, certainly taking over any parts of the outer band of Norwich North, which we're all aspiring to represent, is because I don't believe in rewarding a poor-performing council by giving it chunks of a good council to take over. I really don't. You look at the two councils side by side. On a Band D council property, you've got more money going into the Norwich City coffers than you do in the Broughton coffers. You've got bus passes, which start at 9:30 in the morning instead of 8:30 in the morning for old people. And you have a council which has managed to kick pensioners out of its own sheltered housing and put its own staff in place.
I'm against the idea of the Unitary Council. As somebody who isn't sitting here representing a political party, frankly, it could not be more obvious to a dispassionate observer that the party's positions on this relate to which bits of Norfolk or Norwich they control and how they think they will get the greatest advantage to their party in controlling most of the cake by what they propose. I think that unitary authorities can make sense in counties like Yorkshire, which have several large population centres. I think in essentially a county like Norfolk, which is organic and which only has one really major population centre to the rest of the country, to which the rest of the county look, I think the idea of ripping Norwich out of Norfolk and leaving Norfolk as a donut is simply against the traditions of the way the county works, the way our county works, where most of the people in outlying towns, even towns like Sheringham, where I come from, which is 25 miles away, Norwich is still your major urban centre, and you feel very much connected to it. So I really don't see the need for it. I'd like to see, as Glenn says, I'm a firm believer that the power should be devolved down as far as possible. I'd like to see less councillors on more than one council hoovering up expenses. I think that's very unpleasant. But I don't see the need for the unitary authority, and I think and hope it will be defeated.
For me, this is simply about what works. We don't want a situation where we introduce some sort of new authority that doesn't work. At the moment, we do have some confusion. The fact that there are two layers does make people confused, and we all find this on the doorstep. And wherever you are, whether you're in the current city of Norwich, or whether you're in Broadland, or anywhere, people do not find it to be a simple matter to know where to go. And one of the ways we can strengthen democracy is to try and make it more simple, so that people are aware of exactly who their councillors are, not which is my county councillor, which is my city councillor. So this is the reason why it was introduced. I mean, I actually do think that a single Norwich unitary council could work. I think a single city, Norwich is big enough as a city to run its own affairs. I don't think it needs an additional layer on top of it telling it what to do at county level. I think that what we don't want to introduce if it's not going to work. So this is something that the views of the people who are going to be using the services and electing representatives for a potential new unitary city authority are of the most importance. All I'd say is that I think that it's a little bit disingenuous for the Conservatives to say that it's going to be Norwich City Council writ large. It's a completely different animal. A unitary authority is a completely different thing. If you look at the places where it has been introduced, in Cambridge, Bedford, and Luton, and places like that, it's just a completely different thing. There isn't a huge political advantage for Labour in it getting bigger. I mean, that's the political reality. I mean, there's not a big advantage for the Labour Party for the donut unitary option. But I do think it could be the right thing. But we need to always make sure that people are being consulted on this. A single unitary Norfolk is not a particularly good idea. I don't think, again, you'll just get the same situation that you've got now, where some things are run by people who don't have any connection to the urban centre of Norwich.